Hi guys, went to Home Bargains yesterday, which is a bit like Poundland, which will be a bit like a dollar store. Picked up these three dancing wobblies, as they're calling them there. They're same as the solar rockers, the dancing flowers, that sort of thing. Cost me 79p each, which I liked because that was cheaper than Poundland. And I thought I'd have a go at Slider 2732's TIE Fighter light commutated motor. There'll be a link in the video description to his video. His is based on the video done by Lidmotor. Lidmotor did call his a light commutated motor, so there'll be a link to that as well. And in Lidmotor's video he explains he's built his version based on work done by Darrell Chapin back in 1962 in the early days of solar panels, and also Larry Spring 1994 who called his, is it Mendocino motor or Mendocino? I don't know. Depends on where you are in the world as to how you pronounce that, doesn't it? So yeah, this goes back a long way, 1962. Video description, Slider's video, Lidmotor's video. What we do is using Slider's version, we take a couple of these apart. We need two solar panels and we need one coil. We put the solar panels on either side of the coil, more or less. So that when the light strikes one of them, the current flows through the coil in one direction, creating a magnetic field. And when it turns around, the light strikes the other panel, and the current flows the opposite direction. So you get the reverse magnetic field. So when you have that suspended from somewhere with a magnet next to it, it repels. So it will spin. That's the general idea, and if we can get the friction low enough, it should work perfectly well in ordinary sunlight. So I've got this little jar, plastic jar, that I originally bought to try and do another one of Lidmotor's motors, which was to do with magnetic levitation, and I couldn't get it to work successfully. It wobbled around far too much. So I'm going to use the same jar because I've got it. Had sweets in it. I'll stick a magnet up the top here to suspend our motor from. I've got a pin here that I hope I'll be able to suspend from the magnet. And then we'll have a couple of those solar panels and the coil, and it should spin round when the light shines on it. Oh, because we need another magnet on the side for the motors for the coil to repel. I've got some of them on the back of the camera here, or on the tripod, which is where I seem to collect them at the moment. Oh, there we go. There's a few little magnets. So I should think these might be too strong, but with a bit of luck I should be able to put them like that. So have my suspended coil and solar panels hanging down here, and with a bit of luck that will repel them. We'll see. First thing we'll do is take one of these apart and see what we got to work with. Those are little double-sided sticky pads. They're handy to keep. I never throw them away anyway. Right, these ones you can usually pop apart fairly easily. Right, I've got it apart. A little bit more destructive than I normally do. Normally these pillars go into these tubes and they're usually just a push fit, but for some reason they've chosen to actually glue these, so there wasn't an easy way of getting them apart. So if I needed to repair one, that would be a real pain trying to get them apart. Anyway, this is what we want. We want that coil, and this is going to be a bit of a pain because it looks like that's glued in place as well. We don't need that circuit board, but I want to be careful and desolder the wires going to it. So I've got as long a piece of wire going to the coil as I can. And then we want the solar panels. So can we get this apart? Oh, now that, even that one, it looks like they've glued one. No, no, they haven't. Take that back. So that comes apart all right. Okay. Oh yeah, that's going to pop apart as well. So it's just the outer casing that they glued. All the rest is coming apart nicely. So I've got a little magnet there. Right, this could be a problem. In fact, that's doubly interesting because that little curve there, oh I see, that curve does go around. I was going to say it looked like that was in the wrong position. That's probably for a different design, but there's a little curved plastic edge there for this coil to go against, but it also goes around there. So I suspect we've got no chance of getting that coil off of there without it all coming undone. So I'm going to have to try and cut around it carefully. That's frustrating. Well, that's desoldered the bits. Now I'm going to have to try and see if I can separate the coil out. There's no point in trying to lever it off because it's glued in place, and that means that if I lever it up it will just fall apart like a clock spring. So I have to cut the plastic. It happens to be that sort of brittle plastic that shatters rather than being able to cut it nicely. So this may take more than one attempt. Luckily we've got 3 to work with. I don't think I'll try and get that last bit of plastic off because I can see the coil is falling apart where it's glued to that bit of plastic. So I think I may even glue that back in place to hold it still. Well, before I went any further, I thought it'd be best to check that coil, and it is dead. So somewhere in there, when we've been trying to lever it apart, we've actually broken the wires. This one, (586 ohms). Just check that's not my resistance. No, that's not my resistance. So that one's coming out 586 ohms, whereas the one that I've been trying to get apart is giving me nothing. So that one is a dead coil now. So somewhere in there. That's broken. At least you can see, if it's in focus, They only put a spot of glue in there, but that was enough so that when we've levered it up, it's broken somewhere. Alright, we'll have to be even more careful with this one. Different technique this time. I'm actually cutting the plastic plate off the surrounding bit. And then I'll try and cut that around the outside so we can leave the coil in place on the plastic. It might cause problems with the balance. I think that's what I'm going to do, leave that. I might trim it down just a little bit more. Right, I've trimmed it a little bit more. Now try a lump of hot glue to hold it in place. Well, soldering that was fun. My eyesight really isn't good enough for that. So we've got the wires of the coil soldered directly to the positive and negative, and then positive is to the negative, negative to positive. I have plenty of these magnetic toys, basically a bit of plastic with magnets in it. So I've just hot glued one of the steel balls in the top of there, so I can put that in. Then here's our little setup. That's the two solar panels held together by the coil, which is hot glued in the middle. And I've got a little bit of cardboard on top, a bit of card. Then I've got a pin with a glass bead on the top of it. I can't remember what they call that sort of pin, but that's what it is. That's just hot glued on top of there. So move the camera a bit. That picks up that nicely. So we can sit that in there. What I don't know is whether it's going to work or not. So we haven't got any sunshine. I can adjust these magnets, I can move them up and down on the outside. So I guess I'm going to have to try and get some sunlight or bright light. I was wondering whether to cover one side of this with a piece of black card, just to ensure that we only get the sunlight on one side. Well, I've come in here so I can switch a light on, and I've realised I do have a little problem with this idea. These are not self-starting motors as far as I know. So normally you'd need to give them a bit of a flick to get them going. But if I put the light on, we do have movement. So the question is there any way of me getting it to move with the light enough to get it spinning? Oh, knocked it. I've changed the magnets, got some little ones that are actually pointing right into the jar, so they're closer to the coil, and it's self-starting. The camera doesn't like this light, but there we go. Slider's TIE Fighter, or Lid Motor's light commutated motor. I am really happy. I really did not expect to be able to get this to work, because I've done this from such basic bits and pieces. Oh, that's shaking around too much now, it's actually hitting the magnet. That's because I've done nothing to balance it. I'll try and zoom in. Yeah, because it's so unbalanced, it swings out and starts hitting the magnets. Well, it'd be nice to see if that actually works with sunlight, wouldn't it? Brilliant. Well, thanks Slider, and thanks Lid Motor. I'm really pleased with that. I don't think we got much hope of sunlight. I will go and put it in the window. Well, I'm double amazed now. Look, we're doing it in the... There's no sun up there. We're doing it in the ambient sunlight. I had to give it a kick with the light, with the spotlight, to get it started. But once it had started moving, I put the light out the way, and that is now going on the ambient sunlight. That is amazing. I still think I ought to put a bit of black card round half of it to encourage it to work. But just look at it. I mean, it's so badly built. Everything's out of alignment, and yet it's working.
Hey, thanks for watching. There's plenty of videos on my main channel with more added daily, so don't forget to subscribe and enable the notifications to keep you up to date with my new releases. You can help keep my channel running by donating $1 on Patreon to buy me coffee. You can always find more information in the video description. Thanks again for watching.